Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Baztec, Everything Fishing and Outdoors. Welcome, welcome. It's a pleasure to have all our wonderful guests today. Uh, I don't know even where to start. I'm really excited, really, really excited. I'm just going to do intros real quick. I'm Ray, founder of Baztec Fishing, and it is an honor to have you guys here with us today. Thank you so much. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors: Farmers Insurance, Shell's Brewing Company, Tax Actions, Joe's Sporting Goods for all your sporting needs. So, and we're going to start with intros. John,
Yeah, you want me to kick it off?
yeah, you're going to kick it off. I mean, I can do. I would love to do the intros, but I think you have to do a better job.
Yeah, sure.
If that's cool.
I don't know if people can see it, but I work for Pheasants Forever, and my title is the Wisconsin R3 and Outreach Coordinator. And then R3 is an abbreviation, so it means recruitment, retention, and reactivation of hunters, and really outdoors people, broadly speaking. More to that later, but that's quick and dirty.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah, my name's Quentin Ikuta. I live here. Went hunting with a group that John took out and with Elise too.
And we'll get into that. We're gonna dive deep into that, your experience, and
Yeah, sure.
we want to John and I. We would definitely want you guys to unpack that. So, yeah.
Yep. And I'm Elise Delgado, originally from California, but moved here to the cities about 2 years ago.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Welcome.
And I'd wanted to hunt and get back into fishing for a long, long time, but I'd kind of put it on the shelf, because it was something I wanted to do in community, and I just had some other priorities. And then I saw this offering posted. I was like, it's the time.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the one.
And you've got some pretty cool old school family equipment too, right? Like, isn't that little shotgun belong to, was it a grandpa or an uncle?
Yeah, I got after my granddad died. I got like a Remington 870.
Oh wow!
From
Old school, baby.
Old school, the quality ones.
That stuff you don't miss.
Yeah,
you don't miss with those things. They're awesome.
It is awesome, and it was fun. And John helped me get it all dialed in. Yeah. So I feel really confident using it now.
And you smashed all the targets.
Nice. Outstanding.
Yeah, good stuff.
Wow. Well, where I want to start, you guys, I want to, a lot of when folks from the BIPOC community, people of color, underserved and underrepresented communities tune into our show, our podcast, it's to build awareness. When at my time at the DNR, I would show up and I would do a seminar or workshop, and people did not know who we were. And that really bothered me. And today could be the start of change that narrative for those communities. It starts with one step and then, keep going from there. And this is a great opportunity, John, and I'm so happy, not only you're here, but our wonderful guest, to really dive into what is Pheasants Forever. I want to start there.
Yeah.
What is Pheasants Forever? Because I know, and you folks know now, right? You guys know.
Mm-hmm.
However, our audience, they're like, who? Pheasants that live forever? Like RoboCop or something? Like they don't die? Like a Terminator, Like, what is that? So we really want to start there, and then we'll get into other stuff. So
super cool. So maybe take the 30,000-foot view and then kind of
let's do that.
Sure. Yeah. Pheasants Forever. One really good way to talk about Pheasants Forever. We call ourselves a habitat organization, and what we are really primarily known for is creating quality upland habitat for pheasants and quail and other game and non-game species all across the U.S. And so really we're just sort of like the rising tide, the rising habitat tide that lifts all critters. So that is our tagline, and that is sort of what we're first and foremost about. Now, of course, there's also what might be called a hunting heritage part of that, and that's kind of where I come in. Heritage is one word, maybe just hunting part of it, because if it's not part of your heritage, it's not a heritage. And so one of the things that I do as an R3 coordinator is I try to bring our initiatives that very broadly are called Path to the Uplands to people of all stripes. And I mean, I think it's a profoundly American thing that the outdoors are for everybody, right? I mean, it's other countries have a different system, but we have a system where, the North American model is that people have a right to, enjoy nature and hunting and fishing, and these resources belong in the public trust. And so one of the things that I do is I like to continue the work of opening these opportunities to all people, and to people who might have had these opportunities, and then people who haven't had these opportunities, and maybe people who are who are in the middle. But I feel really passionate about that. And I mean, it's both the necessary thing to do, and it's also sort of the right thing to do, because as society changes and becomes more diverse, hunters are 95% Caucasian at this point, and mostly male. That's not what the rest of the world looks like. So it's right from a DEI point of view, and it's also right from a business point of view, because our business model is not going to look very good if we just have people who look like me, because the
Yeah.
world is changing, and for the better, and we embrace that, from our CEO, Marilyn Vetter, through a lot of work initiatives, through different partnerships that we've been doing. But yeah, and these hunting classes, sometimes they're called Hunt for Food. Some people call them Field for Fork, but it's a way to sort of break down hunting into really kind of tangible skills and components, and give people these skills, and so they can hand off these skills to their partners, to their friends, maybe someday to their kids. Back in the day, I think the paradigm was that you educated youth. And I mean, that's fine, and youth still need to be educated. But I have, now an adult daughter, and my view is that I was probably the best person to educate her,
Sure.
because I know, my kid's peculiarities, and she's to this day my favorite hunting companion.
That's awesome.
And it's awesome. But then this model allows us to sort of have, train people and have them train their social group. So that's kind of the model that I'm working with. Does that sort of set the table pretty decent?
It does. It does. So it that's a great segue to the next thing. So Pheasants Forever has had a tradition, right? Like you said, of folks that look a certain way.
Yeah.
Predominantly male, Caucasian.
Yes.
And the cool thing about it is what I know, and John, and this is where I want to dive into, is Pheasants Forever is not just checking boxes.
No.
That's the best part about this conversation. It's not just, all right, women check, person of color check, next. It's not about that, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's like, kind of comes from the,
Yeah.
The CEO,
Sure.
Marilyn, right down to our workforce, and then we have a working partnership with Minority Outdoor Alliance.
Sure.
Darrell Smith out of he's out east, I believe. He's out of Georgia, and then we've had we had a bunch of different folks at Pheasant Fest,
Yes.
Color in the Outdoors, Hunters of Color.
Yes. Jimmy, big shout out to Hunters of Color, Jimmy Flatt.
Yep.
He's awesome.
Yes.
He's fantastic. He's a big supporter of our organization as well. So
for sure, and yeah, I mean, I think that as I said, I mean, it's on one hand, this is an overdue conversation, but on the other hand, we're jumping in, with both feet, and as I say, it's and I guess to me, it's sort of humbling, because I just feel like I learned stuff about myself and about my approach that I would have never known. You think these things are just neutral, but they're not. I mean, everyone has got a different culture.
Sure.
And then also having ambassadors to different cultures really helps, because those people are trusted.
Correct.
And that's being here is really valuable for me. So
right. No, and I love the organic approach. It's very organic from a cultural lens. Where Pheasants Forever, like this right here, where John reached out to me and said, "Hey, Ray, can you help us out?" Like we're just a small little organization, Baztec, but to have a big, large organization like Pheasants Forever, be so humble and gracious and say, "We would really love your help. We would really appreciate your guidance." I was honored. So I knew that was organic. It was intentional and dedicated, and that's what I'm getting at. Where it just feels good. You know what I mean? And Pheasants Forever, I think, is doing a great job, so far.
Well,
so
thank you. I think we're definitely on the right road, and I think we're making some strides. And the other thing that, back to that point about enriching it, I mean, the class wouldn't have been half as good or half as interesting without Elise and Quentin there. And I mean, and he like debriefed in the evening
awesome.
over beverages and wild turkey, and I forgot what all we ate, but it was good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And just got to know these guys, and it's like it all starts with a ripple,
Right, absolutely. Yeah, those turkeys were terrified. They're like, Who? They're going to be here. Oh, no. That's awesome. We're going to get into that. But awesome. And John, talk to us a little bit about the hunting programs that Pheasants Forever
Yeah.
is supporting, facilitating, and then we'll get into that. I want to get into that and then pass that over to Elise and Quentin about their experience within those
Good,
programs.
good segue. So, I mean, we have a number of initiatives. I mean, one is devoted to women hunters, which is really the only growing demographic
Correct.
within the hunting world.
Yes.
And that's called Women on the Wing. And we've got a number of chapters across the U.S. Wisconsin's got several active chapters. And those programs are generally speaking for women and by women, and they're very, very successful and growing. So that's one aspect of our outreach. The other aspect are just sort of broad programs for what you might call, adult onset hunters, or hunters who did not, sounds like a disease, come up with better terminologies for it, but people who do not grow up, with a dad or a mom or an uncle who hunted. And so one of the differences between the programs that I run, that the other coordinators run it for Pheasants Forever, often DNR are partners in this, and then some other NGOs. I know Wild Turkey Federation has got some R3 coordinators on the ground. Is that it starts from the beginning, makes really no assumptions. So instead of sort of saying, oh well, here's the shotgun, go shoot a turkey with it, if people had that, I wouldn't really have a job, right? Like I would be superfluous, and maybe I will be someday. But until then, we sort of start like, this is a shotgun. This is how it works. These are the regulations. This is how you field dress a bird. This is the gear you need. And so they're longer courses, and they often will have maybe sometimes off a virtual component to get some of the basic stuff down, like the regulations. But then, dive into the hands-on. So we all practice shooting. We all practice cleaning birds. We all practiced, calling. We all got to see the different gear out. So it's extremely hands-on, and there are a lot of modules. And it's a little bit in contrast. Some of the youth programs, for a lot of times the youth had hunted before, so it was just sort of step them in quickly, get them into a blind, let them shoot a turkey. Again, whiz-bang experience, very fun. And good in its own right, but the learning curve is different because those programs were often for youth that had it in their family. But here we build it from the ground up, and a lot of that comes from surveys. So sort of back, this has been going on about 10 years or so, and sort of back in the day, we're like, well, what do you want? Do you want more? Do you want to hear more about the North American model? Do you want more in-class time? And everything came back. We want hands-on skills, like whether that's fly casting, fish filleting, turkey butchering, deer butchering, cooking, 22 shooting, squirrel hunting, all. So as many hands-on skills and as much as possible. And I think oftentimes, if people didn't grow up with firearms, there's not always a level of comfort there. So I like to take it really, really slow and just sort of like, okay, these are the working parts. No one is going to force you to shoot if you don't want to shoot, but you have, just in the same way, no one is going to force you to take a shot at an animal. It's your choice. But it's all kind of driven by the student, and we try to customize it as much as possible to the student's pace, because that's adult learning is that way. So there's a lot of like adult learning theory baked into the whole process. But yeah, very broadly, what I do is I run hunting, angling, and shooting classes for adults across Wisconsin. But I say Wisconsin, these guys are from Minnesota. We had another hunt that I did in Driftless. I had another Minnesota hunter, an Indiana hunter. So in reality, they're really regional classes. I say that they're state classes, but we generally will pull, a class of 10 will have someone from another state.
That's awesome.
So
right. Yeah, that's great. And it's good one of the things that is really good. I had a gal reach out to me on Facebook, and she said, hey, it's shotgun, but we bow hunt. Is that transferable? And I said, absolutely. Anytime you can get outside and analyze these birds and get into the ecosystem, upwind, downwind, hail, sideways rain, whatever it is, get out there and get uncomfortable and learn, because that's the only way you're going to get better incrementally. And that's it. It's
hands dirty, hands on,
absolutely.
in the field. I think I've got some photos where we're all, elbows deep in the turkey carcass, getting bloody, and that's how it goes. And then one more thing that I'm really anxious to hear these guys
please.
talk. But the other thing that, and I don't know if Minnesota has this, but the Wisconsin DNR has something called a Learn to Hunt waiver, and so that allowed us to conduct this hunt out of season with no license, with a mentoring requirement,
Correct.
but with no license, and so that allows people to try before they buy, which is very appealing, and we also provide the gear. Like I've gotten grants along the way from different,
organizations,
retailers, exactly. And then we're able to step people into camo, shotguns, calls, and whatnot, so they don't have to. Because it can be, it's both. The firearm part is intimidating,
very intimidating,
and it can be expensive. Doesn't have to be expensive, but it can be expensive.
I think the biggest barrier that I see, John, and I want you guys to chime in on this. There's a lot of barriers. A firearm. Firearm. Bullets. What do I use? What kind of shotgun is it? Does this one fit in there? Is that, there's all these, and when you have no awareness, because that's something you've never done, that's a barrier, right? Because you didn't have a dad, or you didn't have an uncle, or you hear this all the time. I was a girl and they didn't take me. They took my brother, they took my cousin because they were boys. And you're as an outdoorsman, it breaks your heart to hear that.
It does.
You're like, what? And I'm like, well, let's get out there and, teach you some of this stuff. But there's all these barriers, right? A lot of barriers. Even going into the store sometimes as a person of color or a woman, they won't talk to you, man. Like these retailers, sometimes they won't talk. I'm not going to say who.
Right.
You know who you are. You know who you are. Shame on you. But we have, I'll give you an example. Joe's Sporting Goods, man. They're phenomenal. They're fantastic. A lot of their sales are from the Southeast Asian community. Well, guess they're
are they here in the city?
Oh yeah, they're in St. Paul.
I hadn't heard of them.
And guess they're one of our great supporters and sponsors. I don't know the percentage of staff, but a lot of their staff are Southeast Asian community folks from that community. Yeah, it's if you speak Hmong, Thai, these beautiful languages, there's somebody there that can help you.
Yeah.
So they were very intentional and committed to folks from the community come in here. We have to have staff that reflects. Not only reflects the community, but speaks the language, because we need to help folks. They're willing to learn. We want to help them.
Well, and to add to it, they can support the different values that come in the door.
Correct.
People are hunting, fishing for different reasons, not just for sport. A lot of the time, especially for me, it's like the connection to biology and the connection to food and all that. So it's like, when you have a diverse section of people to help you in a store, that also just kind of covers that broader range. There's equipment, and there's values, and there's so many other things. So,
Elise, what do you think?
As far as accessibility?
Yeah, accessibility. Yeah, and some of the barriers as a person of color and a woman. What's been your experience?
I do come from a natural resource management background, so been in those spaces that are predominantly white men and good old boys energy, and so I don't want to keep putting myself in those spaces. So that was a big concern that I had coming to this event, signing up for this event. And it really helped to talk to John in advance. He was so available for all sorts of questions, and we could speak really plainly.
Yeah.
I would, when I got there, I kind of, can we talk about these things?
Sure.
Because in the past I haven't been able to. And Pheasants Forever and John created a really safe environment to be able to talk about the various accessibility issues. But for me, that cultural barrier was the biggest intimidating factor, as well as just the good old boys club, because it's a very emotional thing. This has been a lifelong goal of mine. Getting to do that was a big deal. The chance of harvesting a bird and all that was going to come along with that. Again, that it requires a lot of vulnerability.
It does.
To put yourself out there, to learn all these new skills. And this particular trip created a lot of space that was safe to connect in those ways. Connect about fears, connect about limitations, everything.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And just life too. John, when you get him a couple of drinks deep, who starts talking philosophy.
That's what they
He
call
was
it.
one of the naturalists, you know.
Yeah, I know that's what brings
There we go.
Aristotle. See,
Yeah, there may not have been a few of those after our at our turkey camp. That was good. That was I mean, in not that let you, but hunting camps are they're like Christmas, right? I mean, like they're
yeah,
the best
feels
looking
like a
time in the
holiday.
world.
Feels like
It's a holiday, and it
yeah,
was
man.
so cool to have these guys there and share it with them. It's like it's the opposite of wanting to just sort of keep it closed. It's like you want to open this thing to more people because it's just so much damn fun. There's good food,
Yeah,
there's good drinks,
right.
and you have a good time. You get up and you get out in nature. Like who? It's hard for me to think of who wouldn't want to do that, and then to share that with people. It's just sort of like instead of like keeping it here, open it up. And I honestly think, just like with these guys, when people see how fun it is, it's just gonna be, it'll just explode.
It is fun.
That's
It was
awesome.
fun.
That's awesome.
Mhm. And the very first night we gathered around food,
Yeah.
right? Shared
Mhm.
recipes,
Oh, yeah.
good food, mostly venison based.
Yum.
But can't forget about the pheasant, those little back pieces or whatever.
Those backstraps.
And,
That's what it was.
Good stuff.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
rich. No,
Great. And I would be remiss in not that. So we had Rich Wissink, who's the VP of Conservation, step up and do a whole bunch of scouting and cook these sharp-tailed grouse, just grill them until just medium rare over like a wood fire.
Still
They were
thinking
so good, so good. And then had some great mentors. A fellow named Earl Duckett from Turkey Federation, and then Debbie Stoner, who co-owns a plumbing store in Grantsburg. And I have to hear your guys' turkey stories at
Yeah,
some
yeah.
point. But
We'll get to that.
just I mean, and the other thing is that's the other leg of this program. Like I didn't mention it. Usually supported by Pheasants Forever chapters and
Yes.
members.
Yes.
And these men and women are stepping up to give their time, which is like even more valuable than money these
Oh,
days.
100%.
And their love, frankly, I mean,
Mhm.
like they're not doing it and like being begrudged. They're like opening their, I mean, like I don't know, they're opening themselves to it. And it's just,
Yeah.
it's really pretty neat. It's kind of, and again, very emotional.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. It becomes from the Latin word fraternity, fraternis, which is brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
Sisterhood, brotherhood. And when you have a deer camp, pheasant camp, turkey camp, it doesn't matter. It's all like one. It's like you become it. It's just something really magical that happens, because everyone has a common goal. I want to get a turkey, or I want to get a deer, or I want to do, and you just start talking about the stories and your experiences, and it just awesome. It's fantastic. Like you said, it's like Christmas. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I went in with some hesitation, but the mentors there had enough enthusiasm for all of us, and it was contagious. They just showed up, and they're your number one fan.
Yeah.
They can't wait to
Yeah.
take you out and watch you glow. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good point about them just immediately being like, yeah, let's do this. Like
Yeah.
they're so stoked. Yeah, I mean, I also walked in and I was like slightly guarded and apprehensive. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, what's this gonna be like? What are these folks gonna be like? And at the time, it was just white folks in the room, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna get along with these people. And then immediately they're just so warm. And I mean, John, now that I know you, I'm like, dang, you're one of the coolest
man.
people I know.
Thank you so much.
But and then like another woman that was there, Tracy, she was like,
Yeah.
here, you know what? You look like you need to use this gun. Like this is my lucky gun. Please use this.
Wow.
He's got
Feel
his
it.
wife.
Yeah. And I was like,
You're like, yeah, thanks.
it's all good now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was big. Just like immediately, just feeling like there was community there.
Absolutely. It's really interesting because seasoned anglers and seasoned hunters we can catch a 5-pound bass, a 50-pound muskie, and it's fun. But watching someone who's never done it, it's magical, and it means so much to a mentor because they were there a long time ago, and they're like, yes, you want that feeling because they know what that feeling's like.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty.
Yeah.
That's the connection forever. You'll be connected forever with people,
Mhm.
with folks like that.
And then one more shout out there because you always forget the Vandella family from the Grantsburg area. Shayna was a DNR employee. Her dad mentored, and Tracy was the one who suggested the gun. And it was that, in fact, the turkey harvesting gun.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
And then they brought some like really great venison and stuff. And I mean, it was almost a one family show. I mean, they were awesome.
That's true.
They were so
Yeah.
so cool.
Shayna and Don both mentored me. They stayed an extra day. I stayed an extra day so that Don, the dad, could take me out the next morning because
Awesome.
right? He really wanted
Right.
to show
You
me
know,
some
understand.
turkeys and really wanted me to harvest something. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, let's with that, want to get into the hunt. I want to get into that because I want to hear the stories. So walk us through it. How did like from the morning? How were you feeling to the drive there? Like let's go through it. Walk us, unpack it. Let's hear it. Who wants to go?
Well, first of all, I can let you go first, but John got up at like 3 a.m. I think.
That's normal. That's normal. That's all over turkey. It's all over turkey. Right. No. Not even deer hunters get up that early. Need turkey hunters.
And then he's making us breakfast and everything. Like, man, this guy's taking care of
This
us.
guy's a saint. What's going on here?
Yeah. Burritos were delicious.
Mm,
And then
that's awesome.
going
All right, so breakfast. John's in there at 3 a.m.
yeah.
So, you know,
Just handing you burritos as you walk.
They want every morning, right? I mean,
absolutely.
you know.
Yep. And so energized too.
Mhm.
Man, he was just glowing and he'd gotten like 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah, he had a lot of coffee. I'm sure.
I had a lot of coffee.
He was sweating coffee.
That's right.
I thought turkey hunting was the type of hunting that allowed you to sleep in the most. So I went in very confused. I thought we were going to wake up late.
Like what's all that noise? I just smell like bacon. What's going on?
And it can't. We should once these guys. So there is another version of it where it can be that, but
Mhm.
I so much don't want to go rabbit hole now because I want these guys to talk. You know.
Okay, so you get up, Elise, and then you smell some bacon, some burritos. You have a
Yeah.
burrito. You're like, what's going on? And you eat the burrito. And then what's going through your mind? What's happening at this point?
What's going through my mind? Very little.
Okay.
Full like I was so tired from the week because I'd been making sure to so I had a full week of work, a long week of work, and then also was trying to get my hunter safety certification at times so that I wasn't missing anything.
Sure.
That's a lot of work too.
It is. On the online stuff? You're talking about the online stuff?
Online.
Yeah. Yes.
So excited the whole week. So by the time it came to that morning, I was exhausted. But yeah, so I just, followed Shayna out and she took care of everything. She knew where we were going. She and her dad got up extra early to set up the blind, maybe even set it up the night before. They'd scout everything. Everything was taken care of. So I just had to get in the car and drink some coffee, eat my burrito. It was a nice, relaxing, beautiful drive out to the forest. And then, and cold. Man, it was cold.
And there was snow.
There was snow on the ground.
May I ask you, talk. I'm a very technical guy when it comes to stuff like gear.
Sweet.
Because for folks that don't know, you could have a horrible experience if you don't have the right stuff on. So please talk to us about that because it's really important for folks that want to do this for the first time. They want to. This is the most valuable information right here. So please unpack that for us, please.
Yeah. So as far as gear, again, Pheasants Forever made sure that we didn't need to show up with our own gear. We didn't need to make that investment. Everything was just, we were told it would be provided. So yeah, there were little care packages when we got there. But also, there was camo available to us. We also got to take home some free things like some used camo sweatshirts and pants and things like that because turkeys can see and hear very, very well. So yeah, we were all geared up, pretty much head to toe in camo. Definitely not bright colors.
Did you paint your face black?
No.
Some people do that,
We
know.
do.
Yeah.
We were in blinds.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So to reduce the chance that we could be seen, that was nice because I don't think I could have sat there. I mean, you had to that morning, but I was sitting in a comfortable blind.
Sure. In position.
Just hanging out with Shayna. It was lovely. But what else for you?
I like how you're doing this. I like that.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, man. That's awesome.
Stay in position.
That's awesome.
It was cold. It was a cold weekend for sure.
When you're not moving out there, one thing is stalking. If you're pheasant hunting, that's a little different. You're moving around, but turkey hunting, when you're static, it gets cold. The only time you move is if you're box calling or you're striker, or mouth calling. But even then, you're cold.
Doesn't heat you up.
No, not at all.
No.
Not
Yeah.
okay.
It's just the excitement of it too, right? You're sitting in the blind, not necessarily expecting to see anything. That's not why I went to learn how to hunt. I've been around hunters when I worked in rural Oregon. They sometimes came back with things, they sometimes didn't, right? So I kept my expectations of harvesting a bird really low. I was just going to learn and find some community. But yeah, just the excitement of being out there, of like, oh my goodness, like I did this for myself. That was something I was feeling. This is finally that moment. And I was so giddy. Yeah, I got really hyper in the field, just trying to hold still.
You were vibrating.
Saw some neurodiversity. And so with all the excitement, I was just trying to stay focused, trying to stay calm. But I was really giddy personally on that first morning.
How long were you in the blind with your mentor?
A couple hours, I think,
Okay.
for us. And we heard some toms or jakes, but they were following a hen. So they went a different direction. And yeah, we didn't expect them to come back. So in that sense, we just waited around, tried to learn some stuff, talk about some things. But yeah, Quentin had a very different experience that morning.
Similar in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
directly in the morning. But yeah, I mean, got camoed up, got burritoed up, all that. Feet up. Yeah, hopped in Debbie's car and we went to the first spot. Had the guns and I was just like, so much preparation went into it. And that was one of the coolest parts for me. And I was talking to Debbie about this, it's so exciting to get ready for this. It's just that's to me looking back, and it's like that's one of the best parts. Just getting everything ready, because that's when you're actually in control, and then you go out there and you're just like, well,
right. See what happens. Yeah, let's see if I see some turkeys.
Yep. Yeah, and just all the scouting that was done. We went to a first spot where we saw some turkeys the previous day, and we're hoping to kind of get them onto the public lands across the road. And turkeys, I guess, they don't like to cross roads. We heard them, but we couldn't quite pull them out. But being out there and hearing the turkeys just responding to Debbie's call was so cool.
Wow.
It's the first time I ever experienced that. I heard some city turkeys before, but never a turkey
in the wild.
Wild, but yeah. That was really cool. So that was the first spot, and then the I don't know if we want to get into like the full-on hunting story.
Why not? Let's go. We're on a
Honestly,
roll. Yeah.
Tell folks
please.
that there is a whole art to hunting stories.
Oh yeah.
Right? And I'm not familiar with it. I don't have my own detailed hunting story yet, but it was beautiful to watch everyone when we got back, and when Quentin got back after harvesting his turkey, his tom, that Debbie kind of was telling the story and like was trying to like hand it off to Quentin, but was so excited about it, but just like all the detail. And if she didn't provide enough detail, then everyone would be asking, these other questions.
Yeah, right.
And so then to get to see, like, put Quentin on the spot, he was getting big with his hands and stuff. So I hope that happens again, but
we'll see. Yeah. No, it was, so then, we went to the second spot. The morning was kind of just, okay, we kind of did a trial run, and I was getting a little more comfortable. Debbie, I think, was observing me and seeing like, oh, is he getting ready, or how is he holding this gun, how's he sitting, and stuff like that. And that was really helpful to kind of have a dry run like that. And then she's calling Rich, and she's like, Rich, we didn't get anything. We heard you might have some ideas for us or something. And he's like, yeah, come on over to my place. And I saw turkeys over here, so we went over to his place and went to the turkey spot. It was across the road and kind of at the edge of this farm field and this wooded, upland, classic like red pines, white pines out there, probably some hardwoods in there. Really cool spot. And I was like, man, this is where I want to sit anyways, just in general. So I might as well sit here and also hunt. And then when we got out there, Debbie was like, oh, here are some tracks over here. And when I was looking at the tracks, I was just noticing like the beautiful intricacy of the feet. The pattern on the bottom of the feet is so interesting. It's like if you look really close to your hand, you have this little texture, but their feet, it's like it's just a very interesting texture like this, but even more so. It's hard to explain. And I was telling Debbie at the time, one of my favorite prairie grasses is the big blue stem, and the turkey foot is just like the big blue stem seed head.
Yeah.
So I was like, I felt right at home. Even in something I was so unfamiliar with, I felt right at home, which was super cool to have that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got set up. I was sitting on this big red pine. I took a picture of the tree afterwards. Like, I remember this tree. And then Debbie was back behind me calling, and it was around probably 9 a.m. or something. It felt so late because, like, sitting,
Got up early.
we have no idea what time it is. Yeah. The sun is in the sky, and I was so tired. Just like, okay, I'm here. I'm doing this thing. And so Debbie's calling, and just there was this kind of depression. Like, it was up into the field, and there's this depression. It almost looked like a lake, but it was just a field again. So the turkeys were kind of riding this ridge, like by this depression. And we could hear them. Debbie was calling. We could hear them responding and stuff. And all of a sudden, I just see this little head start popping up. And it was dead silent. It's like call was like half a mile away. And then all of a sudden, the turkey's right here. And I'm just like, oh, okay. What did they tell me to do again? And I was trying to not move because they were like, one of the things everybody's saying is, don't move.
And you were blind at this time,
right?
Yeah, no, it's just out there. Yeah,
your back was just
back was to the tree.
And you tell folks why that's important. A little bit. Did they break that down for you?
It's kind of like you're sitting. It's like a back support.
And it breaks up your silhouette.
Breaks up the silhouette.
Yeah.
It was a big red pine.
Safety concerns.
Safety. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Less likely to get shot from the back or something like that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But we had some decoys out, and they were kind of interested in those, so they're coming out. And this turkey, I was getting ready, starting to pull the gun up to my shoulder, but I was like sitting, so I was like trying to use my knee. And this is the first time I've been in this position in general, particularly with a gun. So I was like, okay, here we go. And the turkey must have seen me because it was just kind of moving a little bit faster and then kind of dipped back down. I was like, dang. But the adrenaline just from that moment, it was so intense. Like, blood was rushing all through my body. My back started hurting for some reason. I have no idea. Like, I've never felt that. It was strange.
That's weird.
Yeah. But then, so we keep sitting there, and it's the type of thing where we're sitting there for so long and we're not hearing anything, we're not seeing anything. It's probably only 30, 45 minutes that we're not seeing anything or hearing anything. And I'm kind of thinking, should we wrap it up? And after when I talked with Debbie, she was like, I was also thinking that maybe we should wrap this up at this point. But she kept calling, and she did one that was particularly loud, and then we heard some more finally, and they were kind of on that same ridge area. And then we see, some heads popping up. And it's like, at first, it's like 4 hens coming out. And then it's just 2 toms, like back to back. They're just right behind them. And then they start displaying like full, tail feather display and strutting around and stuff. And I'm just taking a moment like, what? All these turkeys are here? One of them's probably going to have a bad day, but
I'd say.
So then, I was slowly getting in position. I was more in position by the time they were coming up because when I could hear them coming, I was like, okay, this time I'm going to be ready. And my arms were so tired at this point. I was just like holding this heavy gun, and I was, but sticking with it. And one of them was facing directly away from me, so I knew they couldn't see me. So that's why I was able to get kind of really more into position. The other one was kind of facing diagonal. And then that's the one I was like, okay, that one is like, it's right there. I can get a shot at the head. And so I did. And when I took the shot, everybody kept saying to me, like, you won't feel it. When, like, the turkey shot kind of kicks, and they're like, you won't feel the kickback at all when you shoot it. And I didn't. But practice shooting, it's like,
the recoil. Ouch.
Yeah, but then I pumped the shotgun, and it was kind of flapping around, so I took another shot and, wanted to make sure that it was down.
Yeah.
And I see Debbie just take off.
Well, honestly, it's unclear to me who was more. I actually think if I had to say, was Quentin more excited or was Debbie more excited? I probably would say it was probably Debbie.
It was Debbie.
but I can tell you it was her.
Yeah.
100%,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
You know, and she was right there. She had the bird. I was walking over like apprehensive. I was like, "Did we get it?" It's amazing. You know, she was so pumped about
Big
it.
old Tom.
Nice.
And then Rich ended up coming over. He was like, "I heard a couple shots, so I wanted to come over
Yeah.
and check it out." And we got a bunch of pictures and stuff. And
Dude, that's awesome.
yeah,
Wow.
it was cool.
Wow.
That's the turkey.
What a story, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know the best part about your story? It's going to stay the same, but it's going to change
Totally.
somehow. And people are going to change it for you. Oh, man, the gravitational pull.
The face of the moon.
It was wax and gibbous, man. You know, it was a whatever, and you're just like, oh, yeah, I guess so. Sure, let's go with it. You know. So,
Yeah.
wow, man, what
Yeah.
a great story.
Yeah, but I mean, as John and I were kind of debriefing, and Elise and all of us afterward, you know, the experience seemed to transcend just every different obstacle that could have possibly been there. It's like access to land, access to
Sure,
gear and equipment,
sure,
you know, personalities, types of people,
sure.
all of that. It's just like in the moment, everything just was one. It was really really cool. So hunting was a great uniter, and that's something that John said to me before.
I think it is. I think that's true. I think it brings, and you know, I think we're in a very divided time right now. You know, historically, politically, and it's, I think we probably need more coming together rather than less of it. You know, I
Yes,
think hunting
100%.
is an opportunity for that
great.
to happen. I don't think we can have too much of that. You know,
No, it's a great bridge.
yeah, it is.
You know, for community, like Elise was saying, like that's you can put a bunch of people from all different walks of life and for one common goal, like something with hunting, and everyone forgets about genders. Everyone forgets about that you're poor, that you're rich, because you know the turkeys don't care. First and foremost, let's start there. The turkeys don't care, you know, and that's really important to note. And we forget that, you know, we forget that sometimes, you know, because we're humans, we're arrogant. We're like, oh, look at me, I got this $2,000 shotgun. Of course, I'm going to shoot something. Nah, I don't think so, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I don't work like that, you know. So it's really beautiful to hear your story and hear your experience, man. You know, that's amazing. I wanted to share something. I went turkey hunting a long time ago when I was a kid, and my dad, my father, we would go down to Paducah, Kentucky. He has friends down there, and they got a bunch of wild animals down there. One of them being turkeys and stuff, and we'd go hunting. And there was this old man who was telling this turkey story. It was really cool. He said he'd been hunting all his life, fishing all his life. And one year he was turkey hunting, and he had his back to a big old tree, kind of like you described it. And he's a Caucasian gentleman, so you know, we'd paint his face, he'd put mud on him. This guy was like, you know,
hardcore.
Oh yeah, man. And he said that he was in position because he knew where their food source was, water source, so he had a spot. And he said he was in position. This turkey came, and back then they just used peep sights. There's not all fancy scopes like that we have now.
Right.
So this is a long time ago. And the next thing he said, I could not believe this. He said, I got in position, and all of a sudden, the turkey saw me and flew out of there like a bat out of hell. And I said, did you move? He's like, absolutely not. He said, I blinked and it saw the movement. I said, man, come on, man. And I didn't believe it. I was just a kid. I was like, really? Blink? And he's like, yes. And now I'm like, yeah, man, of course. That's how they survive. They're dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Of course I believe that. Now I'm like, yeah, it makes sense.
Right.
But back then I was just like, that's insane. How could you see just that little movement? But they can see it.
Yep.
280-degree eyesight, visual acuity.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And all of our mentors did a really good job of like talking to us about that the night before.
True.
This is really important, right? Quentin said it too. Like, do not move. Do not move. Even that example of, you know, don't blink. And so I know that morning I was doing a lot of visualizing. Like, if it comes from here, if it comes from there, and like I was just like thinking up through every scenario, and then able to ask my mentor too, like, hey, can you give some feedback on this?
Yeah.
And get that feedback.
Sure.
And that was the really exciting part.
Because you don't know you don't know what what these things are going to do.
Right. And they could come in silent, or they could come in,
They can come right behind. They can come right behind you.
Mm-hmm.
You're here, and all of a sudden, here comes this
Yep.
bird, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's right there next to me."
Yeah.
So, I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
Dude, I was in the deer blind one time. We had box blinds,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting there, just kind of just doing my thing, and a deer walks right past me. I could have slapped him in the ass.
Yeah.
That's how. I mean, literally. I couldn't take a shot because it's so close. I couldn't see anything. And my dad's like, "How come you didn't take the shot?" I'm like, "Did you see?" He's like, "He went right by you." I'm like, "Dad, are you out of your? What am I going to do?" Like,
Right.
Anyway, it was really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Good problem to have, but really annoying. I'm like, this is so annoying. Just get in position broadside. You're done. So anyway, I'm sorry. What a crazy story. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, John. You got to have some stories.
Boy, no, I've got all kinds of stories. Well, just to sort of stick with that camp,
Yeah.
when I got up there, this was like the weekend of Easter, and I got up there the Thursday, before Easter, and there was legit 24 inches of snow on the ground. So that night before afternoon before I just put my snowshoes on, I don't know how many miles I covered just trying to find them, and there was no way. Like, I tried it without snowshoes. I sunk to my waist,
Really?
So I just covered a whole bunch of ground and actually wasn't finding anything.
Mm.
And at the end of the drive, just as it was getting dark, I saw the turkeys that were crossing the road by that house over there, and that, I don't think that's where you ended up shooting one, because you shot, but it was the degree to which it was still winter up there just really amazed me. And like down in Madison, it was starting to green up, and up there around Craig's Meadows, people were ice fishing, 24 inches of snow on the ground. I mean, Thursday or Friday morning, it was 9 degrees, it was like still like full on winter. So that, it was like, and that did not help our harvest would have been better, because there just wasn't a lot of food sources, we were just trying to find places where the snow was scratched away, but mostly it wasn't scratched away. So that hampered us a little bit. I think we'd have probably harvested more birds if
Definitely.
but I have so many darn hunting stories, but I almost don't want to take it away from these guys.
No, but that's a great one too, because people folks need to realize there's so many things that happen.
Oh.
So many things. We had, like, that's a perfect example, of, it shouldn't be, that's a ridiculous amount of snow for that time of year.
Correct.
It's like, yeah.
And so it was like, it was 9
crazy
degrees then, and okay, technically, that was before the season opens. But I think it's not wrong to think that you could have an 80-degree temperature fluctuation within the legal turkey seasons, and you could have everything from snow to heat and mosquitoes, especially as you move from the early part of turkey season to the end of turkey season. So like the weather variability, and then the sort of like the shoulder things that you can do while turkey hunting change too. So in the beginning, when there's snow on the ground, it's not much to do except maybe ice fish, But now we're getting to where you could find mushrooms and asparagus and trout and panfish and ramps, and and so that's why turkey season toward the end gets so interesting, because there's so many other things going on. And frankly, that's why I'm a poor turkey hunter, because I get distracted with all the other good stuff, But it's good, right? It's good stuff. Who doesn't want to also do those things? It's like an embarrassment of riches, So it's funny. I like turkey hunting because it's a gateway to the woods in spring. There's so damn much to do. There's so much to do.
I'll tell you guys, my closest that I came to a turkey, my pro staff and I went out to Minnetonka over by is it Grays Bay by Wayzata, and I'm on the road, and a turkey's crossing the road, and I'm pulling my big old heavy boat, and I'm like, okay, I'm slowing down, and it just keeps going, and I'm like, oh no. So I pump my brake, and I hit this thing, but not hit it like full on. I just like pushed it with my truck, and it didn't move. That's the only action I've gotten this year for turkey. So and I felt bad. They're like, my son was, "Don't hit the turkey." I'm like, I'm trying not to, man. It's like trying to hit my truck.
You also can't jackknife your boat. Right?
Correct. So I just did my best, and it just kind of like just bumped into it and went, and it just kind of took off. Oh my
They're
god.
they're tough.
Oh my god.
You call them bowling balls with wings?
Yeah. Oh, the other day on Highway 169, driving, and I see a turkey just hop fly. I call it hop fly
Mhm.
because that's what they do, like a witch.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
they just a.
It's not a real graceful flight.
No, it's It looks. I mean, I don't know if it looks terrible, but it looks clumsy. You know, it's just like trying to figure out how to fly. You know, it's enormous though.
Enormous, and it just amazes me that there aren't more dead turkeys from running into trees, but there aren't. You don't see that in the woods. You
Yeah,
know,
you don't.
and I'm sure occasionally it happens, but for as thick cover as they live in and as clumsy as they are, they somehow have evolved to not do it. It's just fascinating stuff. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the things that I wanted to touch on real quick is for Quentin and Elise. What advice would you give folks first starting, trying to get into turkey hunting or any kind of hunting? What advice would you give folks from our BIPOC community?
Mhm.
Starting out.
That's a big question.
No.
I mean, one of the first things, and I guess from my experience, is just to be open to how it could unfold. I went there and I was kind of trying not to box myself into certain aspects of what hunting is like or what hunting could be like. I was just completely open to the experience. So I think that helped a lot. Just that mentality first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Try to meet John. He'll hook you up with some gear.
Get that too.
Got a lot of resources.
And we'll do contact info at the end.
Sure. No, absolutely. We're going to get into that. Elise, what about you?
Yeah, I'd say something I found really helpful for me was just to understand like my needs and limitations going in, so I could try to like manage those in a way so it felt like safe for me to go into an unknown space because I had no idea what it was going to look like or feel like when I went in. And so like had I needed to, I would have found another friend to go with me, another BIPOC friend or femme friend that I could be in community with. It
Sure.
kind of helped me feel safe. I didn't need to do that at this point. After talking to John, I felt really good about it.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd say like understand what you're trying to get out of the experience. And yeah, I knew seeing this posted on BIPOC Outdoors that like this was probably a trusted space that I was going to feel good about.
Yeah.
So that for like first and foremost felt really good about going out to. And then the other one that I thought was important, can't remember.
I could jump in if you want
Or,
to. So yeah, I mean, Elise is making this point, but just to put it in my own words, also like going in. I mean, I said that with an open mind, but clarifying your values and why you're there and what you want out of it. I think that's really important too because I called my folks like first thing when I was driving back. I was like, "Mom, Dad, I got a turkey," and they're like celebrating Easter and stuff. And I've never been big on Easter, but they're celebrating Easter and they're like, "Well, you missed Easter with us. We missed you." And I'm like, "I know, but
I got a turkey.
this." But it means a lot to me, and going in with the values that I had in mind, and what I wanted out of it, and the best result possible. But just being out there and gaining this knowledge and experience was like so valuable to me. I was willing to sacrifice that family time, and then my family was open to it. Once I explained myself a little bit,
Sure.
they were like super supportive and really into it after that. So
I want to ask both of you a really important question because I've noticed this, that sometimes our folks of color have these stereotypes of hunting, stereotypes and perpetual stereotypes of, and other folks from other communities don't give it to us. We make them up because from hearsay, from maybe even a bad experience, right? Maybe, but one bad experience shouldn't, that you shouldn't cast sin for everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes one bad experience, like, oh, don't go there, man, because they don't trust. They don't like people of color. You're like, well, that was your experience, man. You know what I mean? Like that. That's different. So I want to just ask you, what are some stereotypes that you've heard, or that could be present in these green spaces and these hunting community spaces that you're like, no, that's not my experience. That's not true. Yeah.
You got something?
I was going to say, no, I find them to be true.
Yeah.
I find them to be true. And so I encourage folks to be super selective,
Sure.
especially if there's like trauma that they're trying not to like experience while they're out there.
Yeah.
Like you don't need if you're not in the mood to relive your trauma on the weekends,
Right.
you need to be selective about who you're going out with. And I can advocate for John's programs in Pheasants Forever and the mentors that they have recruited for the programs.
Credible programs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like really good humans
Awesome.
who care about each other very, very much.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
No, I gotta second that for sure. That's
Sure.
a great way of putting it, and I think that's why. I mean, neither of us have turkey hunted before this, and it's like for some reason this was the opportunity, and I think there is a reason for that. It was in the BIPOC Facebook group, and then
Right.
Ray, I messaged Ray about it, and Ray was like kind of the intermediary between it all, and just like the trust that was built in the community that led up to this experience is big. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, you guys. I got to give a big John so much kudos to you and Pheasants Forever for being intentional, being committed to this change, not just a one-time deal, but continuous programming and initiatives for folks of color. So
well, no, I mean, and back at you, right? Because like you made it happen. Without you, these guys wouldn't have been here.
I appreciate that.
And the other thing was, it's just weird how it just sort of happened when we were at Pheasant Fest. Like, we're not getting drink water. If you're talking to James or something.
I was talking to James and what's the gentleman? The guy from
Mark.
Mark. There's one more gentleman. He's from Hunters of Color in the Outdoors.
Well, Chris,
yeah,
good buddy of mine. Yeah,
awesome, great guy.
Yeah. So it was just so weird how it. I mean, like I had wanted to talk to you there, and then there was, and I mean, I don't say that everything happens for a reason all the time, but I do feel like whether you're religious or not religious, I feel like you got to take stock of like what's around you, right? Like you got to be a conscious person, And I was like, crap, this is my opportunity to shake hands with Ray and get it done, Not get it done, but you're saying like start a process.
Let's
get it going. Yeah. And so it was so cool. And then everything just sort of organically kind of kicked off from there. But I mean, I am not a BIPOC person, but I can totally see how like you would want something to pass through a network, and sort of vet it or whatever.
Right. Screen it, vet it. Yeah. So who are these folks?
And the only analogy I could think of is like when I bring mentors aboard, like they have to pass obviously a legal background check, but they also have to pass my gut check, and I have to screen them in the same kind of way. And I feel, I really feel like the 4 or 5 folks that helped out with that class are just like, I mean, honestly, man, I sort of say this, like, would I trust my family with them,
Right,
and like,
right.
if I don't, they don't make the cut,
Right.
And so these mentors are really good. And they're also like what you were just sort of saying about your threshold. They're really like intuitive about that. They'll like check back and see, how you're doing. Are you cold? Are you hungry or whatever? And, I think that there's this sort of like thing that can be built in hunting. Well, you just got to go until you drop. And I mean, you're not having fun. You're probably not being productive. It's just stupid.
That's one thing that stood out about the group you gathered to was humor. Abounded. Like humor and joy were really clearly central to the culture of the group we had that weekend. Yeah. And so it was a wonderful experience. For Quentin, who got a turkey, for me, who didn't actually harvest a turkey but saw a lot and had good community.
And that joy, it's just sort of like, it is one of those spaces where you can be alive in the woods in a way that I honestly think cannot be in other, it's different than hiking somehow. I love to go hiking. All the time. Fun. It's great. It's just not the same.
No.
You're just alive in a different way. The stakes are different. Something is different. And and that being able to have that experience is, whether you harvest something or not, is just a super intense way to participate in nature and different.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And to give it an example to that is, the night, because like I said, I stayed over an extra night to go out again Sunday morning.
Sure.
And that night, as I was alone at the complex, preparing for the next day, I was just like connecting like energetically, mentally with the turkeys where I was about to go the next day. And I've worked in the forest for years, and I've never been that intentional about connecting with the land while I'm falling asleep at night. So it just it facilitated a change in me. And so that was the last piece of like kind of tip or advice or that I would want to share, is that hunting is very much a process. Learning to hunt is very much a process. And so this was only the beginning for me.
Right.
And I went in with very little knowledge, and that was okay because it was just the beginning. And you helped with like feeling secure around firearms. With, now I've been getting a lot of rotisserie chickens since this. Super into chicken but I've been getting a lot of rotisserie chicken so I can practice my my field dressing and like teach the people around me, like, this is what I learned. So I'm making sure to like embed those skills in everything that I do. And like now I'm seeing turkeys everywhere when I go hiking. I'm paying attention to their behaviors, their patterns, their, what is it telling me about that specific turkey and the patterns.
Curious question for you guys. Have you guys eaten any of the wild turkey because everybody went back with some, right? Because we got that extra one from the warden that had run into a car, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, mine's in the freezer at the moment.
Good.
I was thinking, it's in the freezer. I'll probably just save it for Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's a good
Wow.
one.
Nice.
Can't do better than that.
Share the harvest.
Exactly.
That's what's up.
Deal.
Oh, and so I knew I needed to like repackage everything when I got home. So I ended up going to the store that night too, and just getting big old packs of steak and all sorts of other things.
Nice.
And I just like made those based on what you taught me about like meal sizes and everything. I wrapped everything individually, so I can pull things out as I go. But no, I'm gonna save it till we can be eating outside. I want to eat that with friends.
Outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Did we leave you guys up with some recipes? I can't remember.
You gave us a couple, but yeah, we have your contact info now, John. So
Bother me. I can talk about cooking too. Yeah, check out the cookbook.
Well, guys, it's been a great, wonderful conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome conversation. John, you want to lead us in how folks in the BIPOC community can get a hold of you and your programs for in the future?
Sure.
And tell them what you have, what do you have coming up?
Oh, for sure.
Contact with you.
Great stuff. So probably the simplest way to start is I'll just give you and I don't know, Ray, if you can flash this on the screen at some point.
We'll make sure folks.
But so again, John Motoviloff, I'm the Wisconsin R3 and Outreach Coordinator. Phone number 608-640-6956. Call me during normal waking hours. Keep my cell phone on me. It's the only line I have. So you can call me direct. But I can spell out my email, but we'll probably flash it up. So it's Motoviloff at pheasantsforever.org. And the other thing is, if you want more, to know more about what we're doing or Path to the Uplands, just go to pheasantsforever.org. And Path to the Uplands is a wealth of information there. And another thing that I actually, speaking of modern carnivore, we developed a course called How to Hunt Upland Birds. Actually at howtohuntuplandbirds.org. And these are stories from like non-typical hunters about like quail, turkey, grouse, and it follows each of the hunters through the field and through their journey. Awesome. It's a free course, but the nice thing about it is it's done from the point of view of women and people of color. So it's probably more relatable. And the other thing is like, even I suppose if you're not a woman or person of color, it's vetted, excellent content, and it's free, and it comes through Pheasants Forever, and we produced it with Mark, who's a super great quality, modern carnivore.
Yeah, shout out to Mark. Yeah,
shout out to Mark for sure. We'll see him later today.
Yeah, for sure.
But so that's probably the way to get hold of me. And so what I have coming up is I've got several angling classes this summer. I have one at Devil's Lake in Wisconsin. So it's a no motor lake. Cool. I've got a trout class coming up this weekend. That's full. I've got a trout class coming up on June 3rd. That's full. So there's not much point in advertising that. And then in the fall, we're going to roll out. We're going to do a very large learn to deer hunt in the Kickapoo Valley. And that normally these are about 10 people. That's going to be more like 30. And we're going to have Doug Duran, who was on Meat Eater.
Yeah, I know Doug Duran.
participate.
Yep.
And it'll be like a network of farms near the Kickapoo River.
Damage tags.
And it'll be really that'll be a great hunt. We're going to have several women's events. We have a women's waterfowl hunt at Trempealeau Wildlife Refuge on the Mississippi. I think that's going to be like the 20th through 22nd. And then I'm trying to get something going, possibly with her upland for a grouse and possibly combo grouse and pheasant hunt, possibly up at Crex again. And then we're going to sprinkle in like wing shooting classes and some crossbow classes. So I think probably ultimately I'll put these on Event Center for Pheasants Forever. But
Sure.
if folks want to get a hold of me directly, I can certainly direct them to that, or tell them what's going on. But going on the Event Center portal for Pheasants Forever will also get them to the classes.
Wow.
Really good, exciting stuff. Hopefully we'd like to get return folks, because that way, they fledge as hunters, and then they can conscript their buddies and get them in. And that's the whole sort of subtle agenda here
That's awesome.
give people the tools, and then to have those people really go out and do their own recruiting, and I mean, that's like the old business adage, like word of mouth is the best advertising, but it is, because people trust
referrals, right? Referrals is the best compliment.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. So that's how to get a hold of me. That's kind of what's going on. Just lots of good stuff. And I mean, the limiting factor is it's labor intensive to run these courses, and they're inherently they're smallest. So don't get discouraged if you try to get on one and you don't get on it. Keep trying. We'll put you on a list of people who we'll email it info out to, and if you can't connect with this, maybe there'll be a short squirrel hunt that you can do.
There you go. Cool.
So,
and your sessions that are women focused, are those available to non-binary folks, genuinely non-men?
Yes, absolutely, yes, and in fact, I mean, if a man, I think, wanted to join one of those, or a non-binary person, I mean, I think that would be absolutely fine. I think the idea is that they're spaces that are designed to make women feel comfortable, and then those guidelines sort of by implication would so if people are willing to abide by those guidelines, it's sort of open to definitely non-binary folks, and then to men as well. But I think the idea is to have a space that feels comfortable for women, and sometimes it's all the mentors are women and all the participants. Sometimes, with mentors, it's harder because women make up 12% of the hunting population, and it's harder to find. It's hard to find mentors. It's harder to find women mentors. So, I don't want to overpromise on that, but certainly we'll make it a safe environment, and it'll be, and the Trempealeau one will be really exciting because it's a refuge that's normally not open, and you'd be on the Mississippi during the height of migration. So good stuff. Good stuff.
Can I come back early?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, everyone, this has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah.
This has been great. Thank you so much, Elise. Thank you so much, Quentin. John, this has been awesome. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Stay tuned for more awesome content just like this. And like us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We don't have TikTok yet, but we're working on it. So, but thank you again, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Adios.
Adios, folks.
Thank you so much for bringing us all together the first time and this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah.